I'm sorry.
Welcome back to another episode of Echoes of Emergence. Today, we are going to be pulling a card from a new deck that Jenna got today. So we're excited about this. And Echoes of Emergence is all about allowing the layers and parts of you to come forward as you receive divine wisdom and healing energy from this experience. So allow yourself to just be in a relaxed, receptive, observational space, just kind of witnessing what comes alive within your body, emotionally, physically, etc. So you're really cued in to what spirit is inviting you into right now. So Jenna, please share this card situation. This is
All
from,
right.
could you please tell us the name of this deck again? Because I forget already. Oh,
Unshakable Inner Peace.
Unshakable Inner Peace by Shannon Kaiser.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the back.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very
I
cosmic.
spent like a solid 5 minutes trying to decide if this was the top or if this was the top. And then I'm like, Jenna, it's a mirror image.
I was just gonna say they're the same, aren't they?
I just, yeah, it was a time. Anyway,
It was the time. We've moved through this time.
it was a time. All right. So the card says, what is has no bearing on what will be. What does your ideal life look and feel like? And this is the card. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, she's chilling, man.
Mm,
What is has no bearing on what will be.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Card number 40. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to receive.
All right. It says Laura.
Laura,
It says,
listen.
yeah, it says Laura, listen. For things to change, for things to change in your life, you have to see things as you want them, not as they are. Chances are you've been focusing on what is instead of what might be. This is a reminder that the outcome you truly want and deserve has nothing to do with the past or what is right now. Although your past played a part in your current situation, it does not dictate your future. When an aspect of your life is not working, you can shift out of it focusing on what you want for the future. And then it says, where you stand right now is a pivotal point. Your future is in your hands. You get to create the experience you want, and the past has no bearing on what can be. What do you think?
I have thoughts on this.
Give me thoughts.
So the first thought is like raise your hand in the comments if that feels like pressure to you.
Mm,
Because I think that's interesting to feel like, oh,
mm,
you're at a pivotal point, the future's in your hands, right? And it's just kind of like, oh shit, you know? So I
yeah.
think it's being mindful of kind of like your mind and your nervous system as they come forward with that statement, and we can talk about that in a minute.
Mm.
The other thing is, okay, so that first statement that's on the card, what is it? Can you repeat it?
What is has no bearing on what will be.
So it's just so interesting the way that they write this description of this oracle card.
Mhm.
Because when I think what is has no bearing on what will be, that for me is like, you don't need to think about the future at all.
Same.
Yeah. So like they're talking about the future and like, oh, it's a pivotal point and you have to da da da. And I'm just kind of like, I don't
It's
know.
like,
That's not
nah,
how I,
chill. Yeah.
yeah, that's not how I interpret that. Cause I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
what is, and
Hmm.
what will be also is and will be
Mm.
at that moment.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't feel like future should
Mhm.
be brought into it at all.
I agree.
And it's like asking you to think outside the box almost, but don't think out, like remove the box. There is no box.
Mhm.
I feel like when we think of a future and what we want, we get pigeonholed in a lot of ways because we only think of one specific outcome. So I do get what they're saying in part by talking about the past,
Yes.
because based on what we know, that's what we think we can have, just
Mm.
based on what all we've, experienced and what we've seen and whatever. So we only think of our future in terms of our past. But if we have to release that so that we can allow new stuff, things that we're not consciously aware of.
right, that we could never even consider. Because it's funny, like part of me wants to change that statement to like, what is, there is a part of what is that has bearing on what will be. And I think that the part that has bearing on what will be is taking responsibility for your frequency, taking responsibility for your vibration. So it's like, well, if I'm going to claim my current vibration and who I am, who I be in this moment, that is going to have the best bearing on who I will be.
Yes.
But it's
Every
not a
time.
mind thing.
No. Nor is it outcome based.
I was just going to say, and it's not an attachment.
Yeah. It's a state of being.
Right. So it's like, what is, and I think what they're saying is like, what is in your life around you, probably. And what I'm thinking is, what is vibrationally? Like, what is frequency wise in the present moment as you claim and embody that does have bearing on what will be, because you're simply saturating your frequency with deeper conviction.
Yes.
And trust and embodiment. So that does have bearing on what will be. Does that make sense?
Yes. I like that.
But I really like what you said about like, that is what they're talking about. And that makes total sense. Like bringing stuff from the past and the concrete environment and kind of stuff that's going on now in the present moment limits our, it is not a predictor of what is coming in the future, right? Because we can't imagine what's coming in the future.
Exactly.
And I think that card goes on to say, like, visualize what you want and access what you want deeper to soul. But I was still kind of like, do you really want to access what you want, or do you just want to focus more on being really present and saturated in the present, deepening your immersion in your current frequency and just enriching it more by just being with it?
Yes.
And I feel like that's better than these manifestations. Yeah, manifestation techniques that people bring in. That's really, because then when you talk about getting to your core wants, you don't have to look for it. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to search for it. If you're being and you're saturating in your immersion, right? Being saturated within an immersion, then the desires are just going to arise and they're automatically going to be soul because of the space that you're in and claiming vibrationally.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, because that's what I wanted to say. You stole it.
Oh my God, you want me to shut up?
No, please don't.
Up.
No, don't.
I'm done talking. You need to ad lib.
Okay, well, that's going to be just silence the rest of the time.
Excellent.
No, I was going to say the same thing about the soul, though. It's just allowing the soul to what the soul wants to present itself.
Yes.
Rather than constantly pushing just based on the past.
Give it space to come forward. So what do you do to give the soul space to come forward and to show itself? And to show its desires to you?
I would say to more release thought. Get out of the mind. Because the more that you're out of the mind and the more that you're in your heart, the more that you're going to feel your soul. And the more that you're going to allow your soul to present itself. And the more that you're going to express as your truest self rather than what your mind filters yourself as.
Oh, I like that. Not shockingly, I have a very complimentary answer to this that has to do with the body. Doesn't that surprise you?
No.
Where mine is, I'm all about embodiment, people. To feel that, let that soul show itself. For me, it is entirely about the body, like coming into divine sensation, which is like bringing in channeling, bringing in divine energy and immersing in it deeply. Sometimes that's quick, sometimes it's not. to the point of palpable divine sensation within my body. And when I am in palpable sensation of divinity within my entire body, then my soul is the only thing speaking.
Mm-hmm. That feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have to do with nervous system regulation or moving my body necessarily, although, you know, that's part of my practice, but still, it's really more about, I mean, it's really just about, I think I've gotten to that point with just consistent spiritual practice and being curious enough. Like I was on a call with a client today and we were refining and deepening her channeling practice. And so she was talking, she's an amazing channel, and she was bringing through a bunch of different energies. And there was this one energy that came through that immediately caught my interest. And so after she shared everything, I was just kind of like, now that energy right there, I said, I think there's a being behind that, right? Like it's not just a diffuse energy. So I was like, let's go deeper into that energy and invite more in and invite deeper immersion. Because I think that when we're in communion with spirit, we can often get all these things and sensations, energies, whatever. But with her, I was just like, okay, but those energies that feel more palpable or that feel more like curious or, you know, aha or noticeable, it's like, this is where we can deepen immersion. It's like, okay, go back into that energy and invite more in. Be like, oh, okay, give me more. Like, what's with, like, give me more of this. Bring it deeper into the body. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to like be fully encapsulated by it and come into sensation with it. And sometimes a being will follow that and sometimes not. But I think that that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that when you go into this divinity that comes into the body, it's a repeated practice of deeper invitation. It's like, okay, I got this energy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this feels so good on my body. I'm going to integrate it. And then you're going to get another one. And it's like, okay, ooh, what's that energy? And it's getting curious and pulling it deeper in and allowing it to just spread throughout your field. And that's how we deepen our channeling and deepen our sensation of divinity, so that like the soul just like there's nothing else but the soul at that point, at least from my perspective. But if any of you have different practices or ways that you access this, share it with us in the comments, because there's a myriad of ways to get there.
I love that.
So that's my very long, shockingly related to the body answer.
Yeah. No, that was good. Thank you for sharing that.
So what else is coming from this card, do you think, that they're trying to get across? I mean, I think you're right with releasing the narrative from the mind. I think that's one of the things they're talking about. Like, don't get so attached to all the stories with the past of like, well, this isn't going to work because, or this can happen because, right? Like it's all based on externals.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than like the possibility that exists with the infinity of the internal.
Yeah. I feel like we look for answers in the external all the time. And the answers that we end up finding and following are always internal. We always go into ourselves for those.
They're sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not attachment based
At all. So maybe we shouldn't be looking at the past at all. Just look inward. And let your soul motivate you.
Yes.
You think what?
I also just feel like a deep reverence for the past, but not from a narrative perspective, right? More from like for instance, I've experienced abuse in my past. I don't call it that anymore, and I haven't for a long time, because the narrative isn't important to me, because it's an experience that my soul signed up for, that I know my human suffered with for many, many years. But I also think one of the reasons it suffered longer is because it was attached to the story of it, rather than like the catalyzing energy that presented through that experience that opened me into who I am now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like I have a reverence for the past and its role in
energetic expansion.
I like that.
Mm.
It's just the narrative of the past that distorts.
Yeah.
And don't get
Distorts
me
present and future.
correct. And don't get me wrong, like as a caveat, people who've experienced trauma, I mean, I've had a little trauma myself, like still do your trauma work, like don't necessarily bypass this shit
Yeah.
because your nervous system holds codes of that.
Mm.
But it's also not sitting in it and allowing that narrative to become a part of your identity. I think you can also already know that the energy has contributed to who you've become now. And energy is always moving and it's always malleable.
Mm-hmm. And your soul is alchemical.
I like this quote.
What
Yes,
quote?
I agree with you. Could you please describe that? Teach us.
No, I just mean it can change those energies and
Yes.
allow you to use them differently in your body
Mm.
to expand you into greater awareness of either those same instances where that energy was held or something entirely new for you.
Mm.
I think I said this to someone recently about how we hold energy with trauma, right? What did I
Did and I told you to write that shit down. Did you write that shit down?
didn't write it down.
Wait, let me see if I can find it.
What did I don't remember.
This is going to piss me off because it's very important information.
It's
No,
not that
because the way that
important.
you stated it. Yes,
Okay,
here it
hold
is.
on.
Look, I found
Oh,
it.
you
Am I
okay.
on top of things?
Good job.
Yeah, it was somebody talking about the memory that we hold in the body, and not just our body, but also the subconscious, which is part of the body, of course, as well. But
Mhm.
you said our body holds the energy of trauma, and our mind, oh, it's so good, Jenna. And our mind recalls that energy in the context of time.
Mhm. Yeah. Good
All
job, Laura.
casual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all casual.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know that our body holds the energy of trauma. If you haven't read, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, there you go. You can read that if you want to learn about the body holding the energy of trauma. But I want you to talk a little bit more just about this statement that our mind recalls that energy in the context of time.
Hmm. I think it has a lot to do with grief. And when
Mm.
our mind chooses to recall that energy into our bodies and be activated by it and feel it,
Mm.
and that we can choose to shed that container of time so that the
Mm.
energy can then free flow in your body and it's not held. Why are you smiling?
Just because there's no attachment, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No
'Cause we do have
attachments.
attachments to our traumas. Of course we do.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And time keeps them held. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And time is a construct of thought.
Mm-hmm. And conscious understanding, yeah.
Yeah. Because we create process with our mind and therefore time.
Does anyone
So it's,
else feel Jenna's philosophy major coming through? Because I do.
so,
And I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I am thoroughly enjoying this.
yeah, I like this
No,
deck.
because truly, like,
Mhm.
we can have trauma in past lives. There can be ancestral trauma, right?
Mhm.
Which is in a different time. But how many of you have recognized through readings or otherwise, or your own work, that there has been past life energy, aka traumas, that have been carried
Mhm.
quote unquote forward into this lifetime, right? And it's like that's because they're not like those. You might not understand those from a conscious perspective until you receive a reading or something like that. But it's like those that was energy that wasn't trapped in time. The energy
Mhm.
still followed, but the narrative you don't necessarily know.
Mhm.
until all of a sudden you have a reading and they're like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense. That makes
Yeah.
so much sense, right? And it's like, yeah, because the energy has been with you. It just hasn't been in the box of time or narrative.
Yes.
Mm.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Like what you said there, Laura.
This went a completely different direction.
It really did.
Magnificent. Where it was meant to go.
Yeah,
All right.
feels
Can we
good.
wrap this up for people so that they know what the hell we're talking about in terms of like implementing this shit going
Yeah,
forward this week?
yeah.
Because we looked at this from a couple different perspectives, right? So this statement was what is does not, could read it again. I can't freaking remember the damn words.
What is has no bearing on what will be. Hmm. I like it. I do like that statement.
I think the biggest thing that comes forward for me is presence.
Hmm.
And within that presence, offering space for the soul to arrive, whether that's mind space
Mm,
or space in the body or both.
yes.
Like releasing mind space, creating space in the body or both.
Look at that. That's a nice little bow.
See, that's my summary. That's my Tiffany bow, right? I think it's
Sounds
luxury.
good.
All right,
Yeah.
dude. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing
It's
your deck.
good.
Yeah,
It's a good deck.
it's a good deck. All right, we'll see you guys
Yeah.
next week. We love you. Thank you for joining us. And as
Mm.
usual, please share what came forward for you in the comments. And it's been real, dudes. Peace out.